Okay, balls are complete. Got to navigate a little bit over here for the shaft.
Welcome back to another episode of People Are Terrible. Episode 21. We don't like to make big deals about milestones here, but this is our 21st. So in honor of this, I'm going to take multiple shots at 10 o'clock in the morning after we get finished recording this podcast. What's up, Caleb?
That sounds like a good plan. I used to take shots in the morning too. It wasn't a great plan when I did it though.
No. I mean, it's no, like if you put said shot into a Bloody Mary, then I think it's at least socially acceptable on a Sunday morning.
It's the same thing of like, if I go, what'd you eat this morning? Cake. People will be like, well, what's wrong with you? But if you're like, I ate French toast or a waffle or a pancake, socially acceptable.
Totally fine. Yeah, absolutely. So what's up, everybody? We do appreciate you coming by to check out this episode. We had our 20th. I didn't even mention it on the show, but we do want to say thank you guys who have been sticking around and checking this stuff out. I also wanted to give a shout out to our friend at German Rifter, Daniel, over on Twitter. Glad to hear that things are going well in your life, my friend. Always good to hear from you guys, and that you've got good news to report because health is important and stuff like that. And so we're pulling for you. And I just wanted to let you know that before we got started. As always, we're going to kick this thing off with the Worldwide Weird, where we discuss some of the week's biggest weird news headlines. And then after that, we're going to jump into Welcome to Florida, which is our segment where we discuss things going on in the world of the weird in the Florida all the time. And then after that, we're going to get into each of our weekly topics. Mine is going to be generally about the discussion about where YouTube is at as a platform and the future and potential censorship and channels getting demonetized. Caleb, what are we talking about on your end?
We're going to talk about, is the name X-Men outdated and sexist?
Oh, good. So yeah, we're going to enjoy jumping into these topics. If you guys have any topics that you want to hear us discuss, hit us up on social media. We would love to discuss the weird news headlines that you want to talk about, so definitely let us know if you have any suggestions, topics, any of that kind of stuff. Russia is to make its own show about Chernobyl that implicates the U.S. CIA. Did you hear about this?
Sounds wonderful. No, but I mean, I haven't heard anything about it, but I mean, this is going to make me sound like a hippy dippy, but I can't fault them because we make a lot of stuff through our lens as well. Where, it's kind of what cultures do.
100%. So the thing, on one hand, it's like, damn, Russia, haven't you learned through the years that like trying to control information hasn't exactly been the best look for you? I mean, Chernobyl is kind of a prime example of that, but at the same time, we saw it through American eyes. We saw it through a very specific lens, and who's to say that theirs is more propaganda than, well, I'm to say that it's more propaganda, but who's to say ours isn't propaganda in a way as well?
No, theirs is going to be 100%. It's kind of like all the stuff you see in North Korea. Like, have you ever seen the behind the scenes footage of their museums?
No.
About the Korean War? It's insane. Where it's completely fabricated. It's like the rest of the world knows what goes on, but they're so cut off that like people really think this is how the Korean War happened.
No shit. Yeah,
crazy.
It is crazy. And so it looks like it might even have been state mandated, or this is going to be like run by the state. Let me pull that article up real quick.
State mandated stuff's always terrifying. Like, I'm one of those people where, and this is me being a crazy like anti-government guy, but I even hate anything in America that's like publicly funded, that's news or anything like that. That to me just seems like such a conflict of interest.
So I gotta say I sit on the other side than that.
Really?
Well, no, I don't know. No. Are you talking about like PBS, or are we talking about like some other sort of?
No, I'm talking about like anything anything that's government funded.
Oh, government. Yeah. Not public funded. Different thing.
No. Like, so like even like NPR, it's one of those things. I don't think NPR necessarily is just an extension of the government, like a mouthpiece, but there's that potential for it. It just seems like a weird place to get news source from your government.
That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way, but it is an interesting point. So this says there's a theory that Americans infiltrated the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Many historians do not rule out the possibility that on the day of the explosion, a agent of the enemy's intelligence services was working at the station. So this is basically coming from the angle that the CIA did it and was responsible for Chernobyl. Is that out of the realm of possibility?
I don't think anything's out of the realm of possibility.
That's
we
safe
have
answer.
government. Yeah, we have government agents just like they have government agents. What I think would be fascinating is I definitely want to watch Chernobyl anyway, but then if we could find their version subtitled.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. I finished Chernobyl, and I'm not bringing anything new to the table by saying it is literally one of the best depictions of a disaster, if not the best depiction of a disaster I've ever seen. It is a drama, but it is even more just a straight up horror movie, because the way that they shoot clouds of smoke and how ominous just that shit seeping into the atmosphere is, and then like the rain coming down on the people in the cities next to it and they don't even know. It's badass, dude. I think you'd like it, and the score is really good. The closest thing I can think of is Johan Johansson, and then the score from Blade Runner 2049. So it's got that really strong ambient sound, just like swells.
Yeah, that weird, like, terrifying, uneasy, borderline not even music or score.
100%. 100%. So yeah, pretty crazy story. I agree with you. I think jumping in and checking out both of them would be a interesting exercise in the way that history can be told from two different sides and be completely fucking different. Let's move on to Walmart sells graduation cake to mom without telling her it's styrofoam.
It's mom's big day as well. It's not just mine.
This is my baby. This is my baby, and she was graduating. So it was very important to me.
All right, so there was a graduation celebration that a mother was having for her daughter, and she wanted to make it special. So as you do, you order a cake from Walmart to celebrate the event, which, no disrespect to any, I mean, you're not exactly getting the fanciest cake in the first place. So like, to see how upset this lady was is kind of hilarious. I wish I would have sent you the video ahead of time.
Does she just like freak out?
She's crying. She's like, Walmart ruined this once in a lifetime thing for us. And I'm thinking like, bitch, this is kind of a bigger, you got way more to remember now that you've made national news over taking a bite out of styrofoam cake.
It's pretty funny too. That's the thing that just bothers me in general, is people cannot fucking laugh at themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if that happened, I can see being like, hey, give me my money back,
100%.
But at the same time, it's like, well, that's a funny. We've said it a million times on here before. Like, you live life for the stories, and this is a story that you have later. So it's hilarious. Live it. Enjoy it.
So they didn't actually take a bite out of it. They just cut into it. It's all frosted up nicely. I guess they didn't have the cake that she initially ordered. So what happened is she said, well, I need it ASAP. And they were like, well, we have this one right here. I guess it was the display cake. It was for graduation anyways. They customized it. They gave it to her. She took it home. And when they cut into it, they found out, $60 styrofoam cake. So of course they were upset, and of course they called Walmart and said, hey, we want our money back, or she told them what happened. Walmart says, we apologize, here's a $60 gift card, which maybe they could have done a little bit more than just the equal value of the cake.
I don't know. Maybe I was weird. When I graduated high school and all that shit, and graduated even college, I could give two fucks about it. It's just like, cool. It's I think people put too much pressure on these little moments, like they're going to change their life. This woman, her baby, isn't even going to remember this 2 years from now. It's not even, if anything, she's going to remember it fondly and laugh about it.
No, okay, here we go. Her comment, let's see. Nellie Flores said Walmart manager offered her sister a $60 gift card, a free additional cake, and another gift card. But she said in her Facebook post that the offer can't make up for the embarrassment and humiliation she went through with family and school friends there. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Come on.
Do you know what's so ironic is this is so much more embarrassing now that like people like us are talking about it, and like you're embarrassing yourself more than Walmart would have. I'm sure everyone there I don't think anyone was like clutching their pearls and, freaking out about this. They probably just laughed and moved on with their life.
Yeah. Oh man, and when you make your way onto People Are Terrible, you have like literally hit rock bottom. It's time to figure your shit out.
Just end it. Just pack it all up. Leave the internet.
Shut it down.
Shut it down. You are done.
Air Force officials say that penis-shaped contrails were unintentional. Released audio says otherwise.
That's only like a minute.
Sky penis. That'd be awesome. Yeah, what are you doing your flight? Oh, we got dinosaurs, the sky penises. Good idea. We can do it.
It's a good idea.
Basically draw a figure 8, turn around, and come back. I'm gonna go down, grab some speed, hopefully get up the contrail later so that I can do each other.
Dude, that'd be so funny. It's like airliners coming back on the way into Seattle. Just this big fucking giant penis. You can almost draw a vein in the middle of it too. Yeah, see it there, just kind of like pigtail it to the left, because you already got the split. Is that what you're doing? The split? Take a for speed. That's what, dude.
Yeah, balls are gonna be a little lopsided. Okay, balls are complete. Need a little bit over here for the shaft.
And we put the shaft going.
The shaft will go to the left.
It's gonna be a wide shaft.
Yeah, I don't want to make it just like 3 balls.
Good. And the head of that penis is gonna be thick. Man, I gotta say, that looks pretty good. You are a natural born artist.
Man, this is like the biggest penis I have ever seen.
Your airline's gonna be seeing that, yeah. If you like do it fast, make sure it's kind of scribbled out. I mean, it's staying there quite a long time. It's not dissipating at all.
Yeah, kind of a good point. Okay, I guess I'll kind of go through a pass again. Hopefully it doesn't, make it look more zany than it already is.
Hey, well, I tell you what, that's a great penis right there. That's a great penis. Make the Navy proud. Oh, damn.
There you go.
Okay, that's pretty fucking hilarious.
What? It's so funny. The official report's like, nah, that was totally unintentional. And then they're like, balls are complete.
That's a thick penis.
Dude, what the fuck? That is so funny. That is 6 grown men in the Navy drawing dicks in the sky.
It's kind of hilarious.
It's great.
So stupid, but it's so fucking funny.
So, penalties. Should they get in trouble for it?
I mean, yeah, they should get in trouble for it, but like, I don't think it should be anything too extreme. Like, they shouldn't get kicked out of the military or anything like that.
What do they call it? Dishonorably discharged.
Yeah. Dick honorably discharged.
Holy shit. That's a good one. Yeah, I heard the audio because at first, like you said, all I saw was the original story that the Air Force says that they were unintentional. And then when I heard this released audio, and to be fair, guys, I'm not the source. I'm not a fucking reporter. If you were to tell me that that was fake, that a couple dudes like me and Caleb made it on YouTube afterwards, I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, it looked official. I read through the comments and shit. So if it's not true, let me know.
I hope it is true, though. I really, really hope it's true, because it's just such a dumb dude moment. Because we've all done that where we're like, you have those dumb lapses in judgment where you think shit's going to be funny. And it is funny, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
Second of all, people freak out about things. And my thing is, like, really, who is that hurting? The only people who are going to look up in the sky and notice that it's a dick are people who know what a dick is. It's not like little kids are going to see it and freak out. It's yeah,
and you can see all sorts of shit in the clouds as it is. Like, even if they didn't draw a dick, it's not to say you're not going to see a dick on a cloudy day when you're sitting out there on a grassy field looking up into the sky.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's you're gonna see dicks in the sky anyway.
Yeah.
Sky dicks are a thing.
100% forecast calls for dicks.
Call for sky dicks.
Oh man.
Today's
good.
weather is sky dicks.
Honestly, from as far as I can tell, it was a bright object in the sky. I noticed it about 11:30 last night. Really, I don't have any earthly idea what it could be. As far as I can tell, it was a bright light. I doubt that it was military. I do doubt that it was military. I think that it was an unidentified craft of some sort. I was startled and perplexed. That's why the first thing I did was run and grab a camera. The truth is out there, I guess.
The truth is out there, I guess.
So I am a big diehard fan of UFOs, as Caleb can attest to.
That's like half our podcast. We're a comedy / UFO talk show.
Dude, this happened in Midway, Gulf Breeze, which is where I work at, and a guy probably a little bit younger than me. The headline is Florida Man Captures Video of UFO Sighting in Gulf Breeze. And I got the interview with him, and I showed a little bit of a clip of it before this discussion, but I didn't find the actual footage of the UFO. So it's not really a story, but I wanted to bring it up because I know that you love talking about UFOs.
There's always like some point in the conversation a UFO has to come up.
So yeah, it's he seemed pretty convinced that it was he had no earthly idea what it was. He implied heavily that he didn't think it was of this world. He saw a light that was like floating over the Gulf, and he said that it was close enough to us that it was illuminating the clouds around it, which means it was really fucking close as far as, you know, it seems highly unlikely. I would have liked to see footage of it, but I've told you before that we are just sandwiched between huge Air Force and Navy bases. So chances are pretty good, as I always say, that it was government or military testing. How far ahead of our knowledge do you think government technology is?
Probably about 10 years.
You think so?
Yeah.
In the age of information, you think they're able to conceal it these days?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of tech. Well, I don't know. Maybe because let me clarify that. I think like Boston Dynamics is also about 10 years of where we're ahead of that, but we know about the technology.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's what I mean. They're definitely more advanced than what we have now. But I think we know about a lot of this stuff, and we can see it on the horizon, even if it isn't being talked about. Like, well,
that's the thing is it's like I always look at what the government is capable of in kind of an abstract, but tangibly, what could technology possibly be in 10 years that would be so exponentially further ahead than where we can predict it going now?
Yeah, like I don't think so. Even though technology is moving insanely quick, I think 10 years from now, I don't think we're going to look back at 10 years from now and be like, oh my God, it was completely different. You know, I feel like it's going to be better, faster versions of what we have already. And a couple of new things, you know. I think the big thing, and I don't think it'll be 10 years, is the integration of humanity and cybernetics together.
Sure. Yeah, and for me, like, I would imagine if there are these flying objects that are being spotted that are government technology, I would imagine they're unmanned, that they're probably more surveillance drones. Maybe they're testing some sort of weapon that has, there's jet propulsion, there's magnets, there's fuel, you know, like there's combustion. There's only so many ways that you can make something run. And it sounds like to explain away a lot of this stuff would take physics that don't really add up. So anyways, yeah, if I can find a clip of that video, I'll try to put it in there, but couldn't let a good UFO story this close to home go without being mentioned. Florida thief tries to open ATM with blowtorches and seals it instead. So this is Okaloosa County, and this is approximately 60 miles from my house, probably about as close as Mobile is. And there's footage of this guy. He walks up on the boardwalk, and they've got public ATMs out there where they're just outdoors in the open, and he goes to it with a welding torch or a blowtorch, and obviously molten metal at the seams just completely seals this bitch down.
That's so freaking funny. I mean, he might as well have just done it with like a soldering iron, you know?
Yeah.
So, is there video footage of it?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah,
at least he's got a mask on. But I don't know how ATMs work. If you wheel away an ATM, is it stuffed full of cash, or is there a safe on the ground beneath it, or what?
I think it's stuffed full of cash. I think there's cash inside the ATM.
Damn.
So you just need to steal the whole thing.
Take it somewhere.
Then work on it. Which I'm assuming too, like it's an ATM has to be heavy as hell because I'm sure it's made out of metal to resist stuff like this.
You think dolly heavy?
Oh yeah.
Like you could throw it on a dolly and wheel it out of a place?
No, I thought no, yeah, maybe you could do it with dolly, but a couple of people.
What are you doing this weekend?
Huh?
I said, what are you doing this weekend?
I know. I want to see someone like try to carry it, just like team lift it.
Yeah, man. So, idiot, dummy, don't use a fucking blowtorch when you're trying to break into an ATM. Just learn from your mistakes. I mean, you got to get like a special kind of saw. Like, there's got to be like a diamond tip drill bit or some shit that you could penetrate it with.
There has to be a way to get into it, to break into it. There just has to be, because, there's obviously tools, I'm sure, if you get locked out of one, to take it out of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There has to be a way to get in there, but I'm assuming it's a very long process. I don't think it's something you can do in 20-30 minutes. Guys,
let us know down in the comments section. How do you steal an ATM? Just kidding. We don't want to know. But if you know, but I don't want to know. But my email address is... No, I'm just kidding. I promise this clickbait delivers. This is my favorite story of the past while. This horrifying Florida man story involves boats, guns, cocaine, and hostages.
Wendy, I tell you, out here in downtown Sarasota tonight, certainly a bizarre day out on the boat for so many passengers. Now we have a boat captain accused of drinking, doing drugs. Get this, even firing several gunshots out on the water.
There was a charter boat captain who had rented out his services to drive people out into the Gulf to do deep sea fishing. And it was like 5 men. And when they get out there, they said the dude was acting erratic and belligerent. He was taking shots of Captain Morgan's. He was snorting cocaine. And initially they're just like, oh, dude, this guy's crazy. But he started saying shit like, I could just shoot you in the head and drop you off in the middle of the water. And they started getting all freaked out. He drives them around in circles for like fucking 12 hours, 6 hours, some insanely long amount of time. And they're just all like doing interviews with the news like, I didn't think we were going to make it back. And dude fucking starts firing off rounds into the sky. And they're just like, we're going to fucking die out here. That's pretty terrifying.
It sounds like that it would be a clip in a movie where like James Franco would play this guy.
Yeah, or Matthew McConaughey. Like. That's what I was thinking. The new Harmony Korine movie.
Yeah, like it sounds like something like that where like he would have a cameo and this is some big actor and this would be a scene in a movie, a comedy movie where it's just like, what the fuck is going on?
He's very burly looking, but you could get Matthew McConaughey to play him. Like he looks a lot thicker than Matthew McConaughey. But let's see. A charter boat captain in Sarasota, Florida was arrested Sunday for boating under the influence. Oh, that's what they got him for. Yes, he was out at sea and held them captive for 12 hours as he drank copious amounts of beer and Captain Morgan rum, got high and fired off rounds of shots from a gun.
He didn't get any like hostage taking or anything like that?
I guess not, which is interesting.
That seems insane to me.
The thing is, it was his boat. They rented it. Well, true. Yeah, but I think it couldn't have been a 12-hour charter trip. That's too fucking long. But they said the chaos began when the group of men hired 36-year-old Captain Mark Bailey. Damn, 36? Hard years. To drive them 60 miles into the Gulf of Mexico for a fishing trip. Things quickly took a scary turn. One passenger, Carlo, told police that after he observed Bailey snort and get high off cocaine, the captain became angry with the 15-year-old nephew and proceeded to rip his chain off his neck and threatened to shoot everyone in the head. Jesus fucking Christ. That'd be terrifying, right?
Oh, hell yeah, that would be. Especially, you're out there in the middle of nowhere. Like if you're one of these people who doesn't know how to operate a boat, I'm sure I could figure it out, but I don't know how to drive a boat. It's not even like you can be like, well, if we have to throw them overboard, we'll figure it out, Like,
that's what I was going to say. At that point, do you go action hero mode and try to overtake the guy? Or do you just like hope for the best?
At that point... it depends on like, is gun in someone's face or is it in his belt? Because if it's in his belt, you try to wrestle it away, but then that can escalate so quickly. You know, like it's a hard situation to say what you would do, because if it were me one-on-one, I probably would get a physical altercation. But like me, my wife, and it sounds like their nephew or their kid, you view it differently, because when it's just a one-on-one, you're like, okay, there's two ways this goes. But then there's like, now it's like, well, you're involving other people that you care about. It's a hard decision to make.
Yeah. I think that unless you had a clear chance at getting that gun away from him, throwing him in the water isn't going to do anything except get him to fire off the gun. I don't think that your gun's going to like jam immediately from getting a little salt water on it. So I think I would probably just try to appease him psychologically and like try to talk him down, as opposed to potentially escalating the situation. But then with so many people on board, I don't know, man. It says the hellish ride lasted 17 hours after they boarded, so they must have had X amount of time. Yeah, dude, that's a day long of just dealing with a fucking crazy person.
He should have got a kidnapping charge or something, not just driving. I mean, there's so much more than just like operating a vehicle while high. You know, that's the worst, the least worst thing he did on that. That's like the most tame thing he did.
No shit, man. What a crazy dude. All right, so I think that's gonna take us out of the Florida. Oh yeah, except for yours.
I have to cover this. This was brought to me actually by my wife's attention. She's like, "Did you hear about this lady? Florida woman stabbed herself and then called the police because she was tired of living in Trump's country." So wow. This comes, it's all over, but this is particularly from the Washington Examiner. A Florida woman stabbed herself 3 times with a kitchen knife and told responding officers that President Trump was to blame. Officers found the unidentified woman standing outside of her home in Palmetto, Florida, bleeding from her hands, legs, and face, according to a partially redacted report. After being asked what's wrong, she said, quote, "I'm tired of living in Trump's country. I'm tired of Trump being president." Police found large amounts of blood on the floor in the woman's home, including kitchen, living room, bathroom. Emergency services transferred her to Blake Medical Center. She told police that she had been Baker Act before. Florida's Baker Act allows mental illness to be involuntary. Okay, so yeah. So this lady, this crazy woman, probably sit around watching too much news and decided to just stab herself because that was better than living in Trump's America, apparently.
Playing around on Twitter too much. No,
yeah,
I mean, dude, that's fucking terrible, because obviously Trump is, in her mind, obviously Trump is to blame. Obviously, though, her mind isn't the most reliable narrator.
Well, and there's so much hysteria around this president and just in general. I know people with, the term Trump derangement syndrome. I've met people where they're so worried about this president that they're so like many steps from reality from where we actually are. And this is, if you already have someone with already mental illness and they sit around on Twitter and on CNN all day, or on the reverse, if they sit around watching, Fox News all day when Obama was president or whatever, or even now that Antifa is going to kill them every second and then Muslims are out to get them, you take someone with a mental illness like that, and luckily she only hurt herself, because this could have been much worse.
She stabbed herself in the gut 3 times. I wonder how deep the wounds were. Obviously that's the kind of shit my mind's going to. Like, was this a cry for help? Was she doing it for attention, or was she really trying to kill herself? Because there's got to be more efficient ways than stabbing yourself in the belly.
Yeah, I don't think a gut stab is probably the best way to go out. It sounds very painful.
Yeah, it's like, I want to bleed out slowly. I want to die slow in Trump's America.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like she cuts herself and sees the red blood and freaks out. And she's like, deep down, I'm even red.
No. Damn, that's fucking crazy. I can't believe I missed that one.
I did too. My wife brought it up. I hadn't even heard of it.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move over into the topics. I feel like I've been talking a lot. So let's start this thing off with your discussion about the producer at Marvel saying the X-Men name is outdated.
So this story I saw multiple different places, but the first thing I saw it on was comic book movies, I believe.com. And essentially is a producer, let's pull up the article to give you the exact name, but a producer over at Marvel said that X-Men is a very outdated term because there's a lot of women in the group X-Men.
So you guys have a lot of toys to play with now in the future, including the X-Men, right?
Yes.
Could you, of course you can't tell me much, but can you give me a little hint of what the future is coming? Where is the future going and the excitement?
It's funny that people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in that X-Men group, so I think it's outdated.
Which I wasn't offended by this. I actually found it pretty comical. And it just kind of shows to me where we're at as a society. My 2 cents on it, it's fucking acidine. I love that we've totally reworked the word man to no longer mean mankind. You know, X-Men is a gender inclusive name.
See, I thought X-Men were like bigger than ever because what's his name, Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner is a fucking national treasure.
I know, that's my favorite X-Man.
Yeah, I watched the video. And what an aloof thing to say. What an aloof, stupid thing to say. And what you said is that's the thing, is that man includes women, but then it also is gender specific. But that means that we've got other outdated words that we need to take care of. Like, it can't just stop there. What about manager? That is a sexist word, manager.
That is a very manatee.
Manatee, disgusting.
Disgusting. We only acknowledge these male manatees.
I mean, ramen noodles? More than men eat ramen.
It's one of those, it blows my mind. And to me, it shows such a misunderstanding of language if you think. So for anyone, off the top of my head, where woman and man comes from is man used to mean both. Then there was Y-man, which means like W-Y man, which was referred to, I believe, as women, and then wereman or something like that back in the day was referred to as men. Over time, we dropped the wereman, it just became man, and then Y-men became women, and then man still meant both, so it was a little confusing, you know?
I didn't come here for a fucking history lesson, Caleb. You're teaching me way too much.
We just wanted to yell at it in anger. It just, to me, it's dumb. I don't know if she really is outraged by it, because it did seem like just an off-the-hand comment.
Yeah, she didn't seem like pissed, but I don't know that English was her first language.
It just seems...
Did you hear her talk?
No, I didn't. I just read the quote real quick, and
she seemed like a nice lady. But yes, it was all very like femme. The whole thing was about Captain Marvel and about X-Men and the future of the two world universes together. And it was the lion's share of the interview was about Captain Marvel being available. But then he was like, what about the future of the X-Men? And she's like, we don't really have any plans specifically right now. We don't really know what is going to happen with the X-Men, but that's an outdated term. There's a lot of women in that group. So I think it's funny that people call it the X-Men, which is fine. She was just like musing in public, but it was a dumb question to ask yourself. Why do they call it that? Because of mankind, because of humanity, because of it is always meant. So what do you call it then? Do we have to invent a new word that is inclusive?
Well, and it's funny because I think it was it Deadpool 2 where he takes a poke at this whole ideology where he goes,
yes.
Name it nothing sexist. It's going to be X-Force for gender inclusive. Or
yes, absolutely.
And to me, it was making fun of people like her.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, these people. What we can call it? X-people? That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People. There's that
X-peeps.
word. I guess I should be more familiar with that word considering we use it. Yikes. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it.
I thought it was funny.
It is hilarious. It is hilarious. And people are going to put a lot of stock into this. People are going to literally there are other people musing that right now, trying to figure out how you rebrand something. And in fact, the Men in Black International trailer, have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. At
the very end, he says, Chris Hemsworth says, we're the men in black, the men and women in black. And he turns around and he looks at Tessa Thompson and she's just kind of like, wow, good job. But it's kind of a punchline.
Yeah. So it's funny. This whole like woke being offended at everything is, I'm really starting to see a big backlash from everyone, left, right, and center, on it, which I think is the right reaction to all this idiocy. You know, is just to be like, oh my God, here we go again, eye roll. And I think it's by pushing this so much, it's gonna get to a point, unfortunately, where, because right now there's people like us who are just like, oh, this is funny. Guarantee you can find other YouTube videos right now of people freaking out,
mad as fuck.
Yeah, like, oh, this feminist, whatever, you know. I'm sure it's all over YouTube.
And on the other side, just completely praising it unconditionally.
It's such a stupid thing to say that we need to address stupid shit as stupid shit and go, man, that's dumb. You know, like, you're an idiot.
Let's talk about the wage gap if you want to talk about inequality, but when you're talking about men not being a good word, it's just, I don't know what you do about that. I mean, like, I guess we take characters that traditionally maybe don't come from the best place and we rework them into something that's a little more current. And I think Captain Marvel is a pretty good example of that, from Miss Marvel to Captain Marvel, but it kind of changed who the character was, you know?
Yeah, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like, I do think there are things that should be reworked, or things that are very offensive that you're like, okay, they just don't fit in with a modern time. I get that. I really, really do. And then there's doing stuff and saying stuff just for virtue signaling, which I cannot stand, where people just do stuff to prove how woke they are and how progressive they are. And to me, it just comes off so douchey, to be honest. Just like, oh my God, here we go again. Okay, we get it. You're the most sensitive, beautiful person on the planet. Okay, we get it. We all should feel ashamed because we're not as open as you are. It's funny to me at this point.
What about the Chiefs and the Redskins? Is that all right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, to me, I don't know. I have two minds of these things. I understand how that is offensive, but I don't know if ignoring and rewriting all of it at the same time is the right answer. I don't know. I'm torn on that one. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Redskins in particular is a little bit gross, but there was Geronimo, the very famous Indian chief, was held here at Fort Pickens on Pensacola Beach hundreds of years ago during the French American War. I don't know what war it was. Don't hold me to that, but he was held prisoner for a couple of years, and there was a kind of tourist shop / liquor store that was opening up on Pensacola Beach, and they tried to use the name Geronimo Spirit. They actually used the name Geronimo Spirit, and it led to a bunch of protests, trying to get the place shut down. And I remember thinking, like, he's a part of our local lore. Shouldn't people be able to use that as, like, it keeps the legend alive in a way?
Well, are there a lot of Native Americans in Florida? I would assume not that much.
There's not a lot of Native Americans anywhere. I'd imagine not near as many as are in New Mexico and Arizona in particular.
I'm from the state with the highest per capita of Native Americans,
right.
New Mexico. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, even I remember when one of my friends started dating his husband now, we said Indian. He's like, it's Native American. I was like, dude, I can tell you we're not raised around Native Americans because, they don't care about that.
Yeah,
and then his husband was like, one day said it in front of him. He's like, yeah, something growing up Indian. I remember pointing to it. I was like, dude, I told you. It's not offensive. Mm-hmm. The only people who are offended by that word, in my experience, are white people who are offended by it.
Yeah.
So that was my thing with Florida. I'm like, I don't know if there's...
Well, there's like FSU, we got the Seminoles college football team. There's a lot of tribes that were here. Okay. Not near as many as New Mexico. Like when I did like the Indian reservation thing, it was in New Mexico. So I don't know. I don't know how you address things like that. Do you change something that's been an institution for so long? Like another example that's probably as far to one end of the spectrum as you could from the X-Men conversation, but the Confederate flag, I know a bunch of Civil War reenactors who are not racist, who are history buffs, who dress as Confederate soldiers because that's who their forefathers were in the war. If they're really from the South, then they're, historically they're from the South. So there was always the conversation about heritage, not hate, but then it was kind of adopted as a hate sign or a hate symbol. So then we get back to that conversation about intent versus like you had mentioned earlier. So I don't know, man. It's a very tricky thing to navigate because I think there's an argument to be made on both sides.
I definitely do. Like, if I see a Confederate flag and I'm like, oh man. But I literally was looking through old Facebook pictures. I'm at a friend's house, at his parents' house, who literally called me their son, who literally called my wife their daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and they adore her. And in their garage, I never noticed it. Like, in the background, there's a Confederate flag. And I was just like, what the hell?
Really?
Yeah. And this is someone who loves me, loves my wife, and I've never had the conversation with him because it never came up and never thought about it until that one time I saw the picture and now.
Right. Right.
But so I would love to sit down with someone like that who I'm like, you obviously have no problem with race. You with open arms accept me and my wife, and but you also have this symbol, because I do see the symbol. I'm completely honest. This I do see it as like a hate symbol. I really do. My brain goes there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, and I for me, I mean, obviously this is my opinion, but I think that's the correct way to view it. When you've had people being hung under that banner, I think at that point it is adopted that. But there's people who it's just South, or it just means like rebellion or whatever people symbol means.
Rebel pride. Yeah. I don't know. I've never owned or flown a Confederate flag. I think, like you said, I think they're too synonymous with it, regardless of how other people can choose to not see it like that. It's really hard to overlook it. It's like, the swastika was originally a Hindu symbol. Well, unfortunately now it's a Nazi symbol.
You said the greatest pun without even realizing it. You said, I don't know how people can not see it like that.
Hey, I'm going to remix that shit. All right.
Yeah, I know.
X-Men. Yeah. What do you guys think about that conversation? Let us know down in the comment section. Is the word man just dated? Should we just get rid of men altogether? Let us know.
Here's an example, and then he cut together this piece from Crowder's
Before we get
show.
to the video with our favorite lispy sprite from Vox. It's ridiculous. It's bonkers. You're being given a free pass as a crappy writer because you're gay.
That's center line on his little queer graph there. What is
well,
that
now
line?
the graph is queer.
Violence, filth.
Okay, so the little queer can eat his chips all nonchalantly. It's code for rape, Mr. Queer eating chips on the Vox channel. Chip, 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 but you can eat just one. Right, thanks. This is what Mr. Gay Vox wants to do. Mr. Lispy Queer from Vox. What were you holding, Gay Latino from Vox? His hand movement in fast motion is gay. Now we're here with the short-haired angry lesbian on Skype. And cable news giggling stitching. Two gay guys sitting there eating banana. We get the symbolism there. The truth is hiding in a closet 2 weeks later, probably along to his next Pride Parade outfit. This guy on the gay semi-Latino Vox. Oh, okay, so there's an angry little queer. All right, I can't deal with this sprite anymore. Okay, he just sachets across without, the gay Vox sprite is wrong. Now he could be a tranny, Your Honor.
I feel like the supercut is way worse than when you watch a 2-hour show of him.
Right. And I think that's kind of where YouTube ended up falling on that side of it. So this comes from Variety.com. It's 3 days ago. It says YouTube says it's reviewing harassment policies after it condoned sustained attacks on gay Latino journalist Carlos Maza. YouTube is under fire for initially taking no action against a right-wing vlogger who has chronically bullied a gay Hispanic video journalist. Said it will take a hard look at our harassment policies with an update with an aim to update them. The backstory is Carlos Maza is a Vox video producer, said on Twitter post on the 30th that he began working at Vox in early 2017, and videos by conservative YouTuber Steven Crowder responded to his series Strike Through and have consistently included repeated overt attacks on my sexual orientation and ethnicity. Do you think that what he did is a repeated overt attack against his sexual orientation and ethnicity?
I think it's very lowbrow humor and talking shit, yes. But according to that, the article you just read called him a gay Latino, and that's literally how Crowder refers to him.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, super. And plus, this guy's Twitter handle is @gaywonk.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so I have, what's his name? Carlos, what's his last name?
Maza.
I have a lot of issues with Carlos Maza in general, just because he used to work for Media Matters. He has talked about his entire goal is to take down Fox News. He's called on Twitter for people to go assault people that they disagree with. He's called for him to throw milkshakes at people he disagrees with. So I find it pretty ironic, but also typical, that this guy is literally on Twitter calling for people to go out into the world and throw milkshakes, which would be legally assault.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Throw milkshakes at people, but he can't stand tough words on the internet. I just find it really, really hypocritical.
Yeah, I don't like what Steven Crowder said. I don't like any of it at all. There's the whole thing about like the N-word. I mean, there's a conversation to be had. Can a black person call another black person the N-word? Can a white person call another black person the N-word? And I mean, regardless of where you fall on that, there's like a social etiquette attached to it. There's what's considered okay and what's not. Now, I agree with you in the fact that they refer to him as a gay Latino journalist. He refers to himself as a gay Latino journalist. This guy in itself referring to him as a gay Latino journalist, I wouldn't have an issue with that. It got like, I don't want to see your gay impression in the middle of it. That's where I think it's offensive. It's like, to label somebody something is one thing, but all context is lost when you put that in print. But when you're doing the hand motions and saying even his hand motions are gay and all of that, it just crosses over into the line of poor taste. That said, you nailed it when you said, like, if you're a public figure, you got to be open to the fact that people are going to ridicule you. You have to have thicker skin. You have to know that if you choose to take this strong advocacy, that people are going to clap back, and you can't just have a one-sided conversation, and the second that somebody contests it, try to shut them down.
Well, especially for the type of person who is like made jokes about straight white males, you can't. So here's my thing is, I agree with you. I think this is lowbrow. I think it's offensive. I don't particularly like it. I find it very unnecessary. I would never say this in our content.
Right.
But I don't assign myself to identity politics left or right. So if you're going to assign yourself to identity politics where you yourself define yourself clearly as a gay Latino, and you make that one of your biggest, proudest things is that you're gay and that you're Latino, and then on the reverse side of that, you also will attack people for being straight white males. How fucking hypocritical, and how dare you then get mad when someone is using identity politics back at you? That being said, Crowder says he hates identity politics. And what is he doing here? Identity politicking.
Yeah. And the irony is not lost on me on both sides of that. And I do think it's like, it's just gross, his whole call to arms, and to start pointing fingers at YouTube and saying that YouTube is somehow systematically breeding this kind of behavior, and that YouTube needs to do something to change the way that basically the way that content's monitored and distributed. And I feel like that's the danger of all of this, is that like YouTube's going to keep on caving just a little bit more and a little bit more, and then it's not going to be a platform for content creators anymore. It's going to be completely run by the institution. Like the beauty, right. And the beauty of YouTube is that it's if a news network puts it onto their network, or if a news network puts a journalist onto their network, then in turn, it becomes a voice or a representation of that network. YouTube is millions of people that have all sorts of different agendas from all sorts of different walks of life, and we as creators are able to post whatever we want onto the platform. YouTube doesn't take a side in this. It was never about this higher institution or this bigger brand. It was always about each of us individuality, being able to share ideas and express ideas. And I don't like hate speech, but at the same time, I don't think that YouTube should do a fucking thing about this guy. Really.
Well, and I agree. And ultimately, Steven Crowder is going to come out fine. This guy's like 3 million subscribers. He's going to be fine. It's going to hurt people like you and me who, we've referenced, even though it was in quotes, let's be queer. Maybe that gets flagged and now we're on a list.
Yep.
And let's also look at the other side of this thing. This is a major person. Vox got like 200 million from, or something like that, 100 million, somewhere 200 million, something ridiculous amount from like NBC.
MSNBC, yeah. 20
million from YouTube, a grant for 20 million. This is a big guy. Whether you like Steven Crowder or not, or where you stand on him as a person, this is a big corporation stamping out an independent creator, because that's what Steven Crowder is. And guess what the ultimate verdict is? He has that socialism is for figs shirt that he wears, which is, the joke is it's offensive, and also that it's actually not saying the word. I guess that's a joke. But ultimately, they're like, we'll put you back as long as you take off the t-shirt link in your descriptions. So good job, Vox, for stamping out all these little creators. There's history channels that are gone now because of this. There's independent news people that are gone now because of this. And what's the result? Steven Crowder has to take off a link to his shirt. Way to go, Carlos.
Yeah, really making a difference. And that's just it. Is he's framed himself as a victim, and it's you've put yourself in the position to be framed that way, so you have to like rise above it. I understand it's a little different when this person has a big following, and I think that's what the fear is. And I do acknowledge that it can be problematic. That's the thing about free speech, is there's the line, it gets hard to see sometimes, and if you allow toxic ideologies to spread like wildfire, and then it can get out of control. There's definitely the fear that the wrong person is going to receive this information, whether we're talking about this woman who stabbed herself because of Trump's America, or we can say somebody else is like, I'm tired of these socialist figs, I'm going to go out and stab somebody. And that's the danger of spreading any sort of really emotion-based ideology. And that's something we don't peddle a lot of here. Neither me or you get like real worked up about shit. And but there is a lot of that. There are a lot of people who respond emotionally to topics, and that's the thing. Is I understand why it is kind of important to monitor it, but I don't think you should intervene unless it gets to a point where it becomes something more.
So my line for all of this stuff is direct calls to action, where I think that crosses a line. So him debating, quote unquote, Steven Crowder debating his ideas, even though in a very, in my opinion, distasteful way of doing it. He doesn't call for action. He doesn't call people to dox him. He's actually been very vocal about how you should never dox people, never assault people. Carlos goes on Twitter and actually calls for action to people go into the real world and throw stuff at people. To me, I look at both of those as much worse. I look at Carlos to me as much worse in that part, and I would stand by this if it were Crowder who was going out and telling people to do things to people in the streets, because that's just unacceptable. But ultimately, I feel like the best way to fight bad ideas, is with good ideas. And part of me wonders if part of the reason this really came to a head right now is Vox is hemorrhaging money. There's employee walkouts and layoffs, and Vox is unless they change their business model, not going to be here forever.
So you're suggesting that this could have been a calculated move to boost ratings?
It's kind of like, well, and then that, and it's also kind of stomping out the competition. Vox has made it very clear they don't like people with different ideology, and they always call for deplatforming. This is nothing new. Vox, Carlos, he calls for deplatforming over and over and over. We've seen major news organizations target people like Phil DeFranco even about trying to get him to deplatformed, and PewDiePie and all these people. And I feel like there's a difference between journalism and activism. And journalism is and it bothers me when Carlos refers to himself as journalist. He's not. Just like I don't think Crowder is either. I think Crowder is, closer to it even being a comedy show because he will bring a little more ideas, but then that's even a huge stretch to me. I think both of these fall more into the activism or opinion side. The difference for me is why Carlos to me falls even farther into the activism side because, okay, I'll use this example. Let's say I am a content creator and I'm advocating for healthy living. I say, don't eat sugar because, it's bad for you. That's journalism with an activist tint to it. But if I then go attacking sugar companies, starting boycotts on sugar companies, I've left the realm of journalism and gone fully into activism. And to me, that's where a lot of Vox falls in when they're calling for deplatforming, sending emails, sending tweets. You've crossed the line into activism.
And again, it's a call to action, which by definition is activism. And on the other side of that, there's this idea that like Vox is trying to censor YouTube or make YouTube censor itself. And I think that was the thing about YouTube is that it should be neutral. It shouldn't be represented by the faces behind it or the creators or anything. It is just a place to share fucking videos. And that's what it's identity politics has embedded itself so deeply into the vernacular when it comes to just the online community as a whole. And I think I hate that. I'm with you on the side of like, calling to deplatform other people to me it's counter to free speech. It's counter to the idea of journalism in the first place. It's like you can't be a journalist and then say that other people can't report anymore. Now, like you said, it is a stretch to call both of them journalists, but I noticed something just now. What's up with Canadians being all fucking hardcore right-wingers? What is that about? Like, why are they so concerned about American identity politics?
Well, I feel like because a lot of them have moved here, like Crowder lives here now, lived here a long time, and they're from a place that is farther left than us, and they see a lot of problems. Just like, okay, you grew up in a place that was more right-wing, I'm assuming, than I did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see a lot more problems in right-wing ideology because you grew up around it. I see a little more problem left because I grew up a little more left, and Canada is very leftist. And a lot of these people moved here and they're like, yay, we're in all these great things. And then now there's this huge push for America to be more like Canada. And they're like, no, I don't want it to be more like Canada. I'm in America so that it's not like Canada. Because that is a huge thing. There's a big group of conservative voices that are originally from Canada. Or from the UK.
And I just recently noticed, like I wasn't aware of that until actually what triggered me, me seeing the pattern was first with Tom McDonald, and then it was the girl from what are they called, The Blaze? Is that right? What's her name? The Asian Canadian
roaming millennial. I don't know what her actual. I watched her before she was actually on The Blaze,
and she's pretty good. She's pretty good, and I don't.
Like a logical, I actually really like her content. I feel like she is a lot more polite and logical than someone like Crowder. And she's been on Crowder a ton of times as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'm open to the discussion regardless of what the discussion is. Again, I've never come from a place of being systematically oppressed. I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I can't relate. I don't know what this dude Carlos's life was like. I don't know how this conjures up negative things from his past or whatever the situation is. But when it gets to the line of, like you said, calling to action and saying YouTube should make a stance and defend my ideology over anybody else's, that's fucking problematic, because if you do it for one person, what validates one person over another, and then eventually it's all going to be censored.
Well, and that's the thing I feel like I see a lot of is calls for censorship with people totally oblivious to the fact that it'll eventually be used on them.
Yeah.
You'll see it with the government. They'll be like, so here's my thing that I always think is funny right now. There's so many people calling for government on the left, specifically right now, calling for government regulation of free speech. Okay. while at the same time worried that the government is too big underneath Donald Trump. I'm like, okay, so let's say you win and you get all this government regulation underneath the government. Republicans are in control right now. So who do you really think this is going to affect? These laws. It's going to be, you're literally calling for censorship on yourself at this point. And now privately, it's different. But I think that I would rather bad ideas be out there so we can look at them and go bad ideas. Like Crowder, I actually look at some of his ideas as good. I look at particular his messaging and the crassness of it. I actually think is bad, and I think it is very distasteful. But I also get what he's doing. That's the whole point. He's shock jock. That's kind of what his thing is.
Yeah, a lot of edgelords out there making. I mean, whether it's Red Letter Media making fun of movie reviewers or whatever the thing is, there's always going to be a niche to be filled in this climate, regardless of what sub-genre of YouTube content you make. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'd like to see where things go. Hopefully, they always go in favor of the creators, and hopefully it always is like a place to be able to do everything from tutorials on how to switch oil in your car to how to play guitar to music videos to people getting kicked in the nuts by horses. Like whatever you want to upload, that's what you should upload, as long as it's not literally hurting anybody. But at the same time, when that shooter guy is using YouTube as an opportunity to upload live streams of people so there is a line somewhere. I don't know, I'm not here to ascribe that to YouTube, but it's a conversation worth having. You guys let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. Anything else before we wrap this up?
I think that's it. I think we kind of covered everything. Kind of beat the horse till it was dead and then beat it some more.
Yes, sir, as we do. All right, Caleb, it's been fun. And you guys, if you enjoyed this video, do us a favor. Take just a second, for real. Smash that little thumbs up button down there. It really helps out. Helps the channel grow, helps us know what kind of content that you're enjoying. And if you want to follow social media, People Are Terrible on YouTube. And until next time, and on behalf of both of us, bye.